Hey, it's Divinus, and let's slow things down for a second. Let's come into ourselves. Okay, today I'm going to be giving you guys the top 5 most common distractions that we often have as humans. First, we're going to define a distraction. A distraction is anything that disconnects you from your awareness, your needs, or just simply out of your present moment. So sometimes a distraction can be obvious, like scrolling on your phone, using something as a vice. Like those are common distractions that we physically can see. But I want to talk about other distractions that are more underlying and sneaky, and how we can learn to live with our distractions, not saying that we have to get rid of them. You never want to try to get rid of anything because these things still exist. So ignoring it would just be, kind of painful. Imagine saying, no phones ever. It's like, but we still kind of need our phones. Or no drinking or smoking. Like, I would literally die. Like, sometimes I need that. I need that. Not explain it, but I need that shit sometimes. But how do we learn how to balance it where it becomes something that we just actively participate in rather than it being a distraction that completely takes us away from ourselves? So is a distraction always bad? Not necessarily. First, let's get into the most common distraction. And you guessed it, our phones, technology. It's a huge distraction. But I love technology. Like, look what I'm doing right now. I'm talking to you through my phone in my living room, and you're just seeing me on your screen. Like, that's fucking amazing, bro. That's amazing. So I'm not going to take away from technology, but I can also acknowledge the fact that that shit is distracting. And if you let it, you'll be stuck doom scrolling under your covers for hours upon hours upon hours. But good thing is I already made an entire video on phones. So I would suggest that you watch that video before you watch this one. And I talk everything about phones, how it's distracting us, how you can use your phone to, better your time and management, and how to use your phone as a partner and not as a vice. Not letting all your energy and effort and time and attention go into your phone, but rather use it as a helping buddy to help you become a more aware version of yourself. So check that video out. Let's get on to distraction number 2. The second biggest distraction that we tend to have that might not always show up as physical, but can, is hustle. Hustling is a distraction. Hustling keeps your mind repeatedly busy or busy. It doesn't even matter what you're doing, to avoid something else. So sometimes we hustle and try to get a bunch of money or sign up for a bunch of jobs. Like I used to do DoorDash. And what I found out after doing all that shit is that I still was broke. I would do all these things that constantly kept me busy and gave the appearance of I need more money. And in turn, it just took all of my time and gave me this much money. So it was a distraction. I get it. And I honestly now I fucking hate it. Like, I would much rather not. It's not worth the time, energy, or effort, but I understand it is a good business. It helps people, but being on the other side of that business, it can turn you into an over hustler real quick because you think that you're doing something. Sometimes being extremely busy becomes addicting. Like, I'm talking about going to work at night, getting off of work, signing into DoorDash, doing DoorDash 3 or 4 hours. And I'm like, at the end of the night, I'm like, I did so much shit today. Just to make me feel good, like I did so much shit. And it really didn't do anything, but really kind of just take all my time. Sometimes I would use it to avoid emotional problems. So I would be like, I don't want to go home right after I finish working. So to avoid it, I would go do something else and be like, well, I'm just door dashing. And it's realistically you just don't want to go home. Because maybe your home life is not that good. So you overwork yourself or you put yourself into so many activities so you can avoid, something. This is when we have to pause and figure out what we can do as meaningful work and what is just constant busyness. It becomes tiring and repetitive and uninteresting. You want to find something that keeps you busy and interested, and that's how you balance your need to hustle. Because if you took the same amount of energy that you put into making money for another company, per se, if you took that extra energy and put it in a skill that you actually enjoyed, imagine how far you could get. I started doing different hobbies and stuff to counteract my need to just do something. I say, if you want to just do something that's going to benefit you in the end. And maybe that is doing DoorDash, and maybe you are getting benefits and you're in a good area and you're making a lot of money. But just make sure that your busyness is not avoiding something. Just make sure that it is meaningful to you. You begin to start doing things that feel more meaningful to you. You'll realize that you'll start fitting it into your day-to-day life and it eases with more flow. It doesn't feel like you're being forced to do it, that you don't have any expectations from it, and it just becomes easier and lighter on you, and you'll be able to coexist with it. Coexist with the need of always having to do something. Let's move on to number 3, the third distraction. The distraction of validation. How can validation be a distraction? Validation can be a distraction because sometimes you will constantly seek some form of approval or recognition for something instead of doing it simply for the fuck of it. And you can get stuck in that mode, and then you'll figure out that every single thing that I'm doing is because I want some form of accolades. I'm not doing it because I want to do it. I'm doing it because I want to feel something around this action. What also comes with validation is sometimes we can get distracted in relationships, not simply because we're just not good people or we can't just be in a relationship. Sometimes we don't realize that we start changing ourselves to be around certain people or to feel a part or to feel loved. This usually tends to stem from this idea of we don't want to do things alone. Loneliness sometimes are our driving forces. It makes us make decisions based off of I don't want to be alone rather than I'm not actually really interested in this, but because I want to keep these group of people around, I'm going to pretend like I like these things or that I want to do these things. But in reality, I'm simply doing it so that I can not feel like I'm alone. But the good thing for you is once you stop seeking validation from people or environments and things, you'll be able to live in your own truth, and the correct people or people that match your truth will attract to you naturally. But if you're busy kind of living a double life or living behind a mask simply to appease certain people, you will never find the ones that actually truly enjoy what's underneath that mask. You have to ask yourself, what does healthy connection feel like? What is safe in relationships for you? Is it a relationship where you can express something that is hurting you and the person take it not as an attack, but as something that they are going to work on, or that you both can mutually work on? Is it somewhere where you don't always feel small, or you don't feel like someone is always telling you what to do? I feel like a healthy relationship is where two whole beings can communicate their needs and wants, and both people can benefit from it. Meaning, I'm not going to overstep your boundaries, and you're not going to overstep mine. I had to learn that. It took me a long time, but we're here. What does it feel like to not abandon myself while being in a healthy relationship? Most of the time, it's just communication, communicating your needs, your wants, your desires, and not folding or not compromising on what you need, because you need it for a reason. And sometimes your needs may change, which is perfectly okay and perfectly human. But if my needs change, how will this person react? You know what I'm saying? The fourth biggest distraction that we have is escapism, which can kind of feel a little bit the same as like hustle, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about always constantly needing like a external noise to keep you at bay. Talking about what happens when you can't sit with boredom anymore. Like you have to do something at every single moment because you can't sit with yourself in silence anymore because it literally hurts too much. Sometimes when you're in this mode, you can binge a lot of entertainment or distractions and still feel empty and numb on the inside. So what can happen is you can become so overstimulated by your outside environment, or just always doing something, meaning these are a collection of scrolling or being around people who you know aren't good for you, a collection of things that just basically distract you. Consuming these things consciously, or we consuming them automatically. I'm trying to think of an example of a escapism of entertainment. The only thing I can really think of is sometimes like I will binge watch a show knowing that there's a lot on my mind, and instead of addressing what's on my mind or what needs to be said, I will sit and enjoy a show for hours on hours, or I will scroll or watch YouTube for hours, basically distracting me from my current reality. So how do we enjoy the distraction of entertainment without letting it completely consume us? I would say that it has to be being mindful of what you're watching. If you know that you're going through a breakup, I would suggest not watching breakup content unless it's helping you through the breakup. But watching stuff that reinforces the ideas that we already think about ourselves is not going to help us in the moment. Also, sometimes when I find myself disconnected, meaning I'm overly seeking stimulation from so many different areas, sometimes slowing down and participating in an activity that is really slow for you, that requires you not to do much thinking, and that you can just be kind of free in. For me, I like to skate, I like to draw, I like to just randomly dance, or I like to just do just the basic natural stuff. Usually it has stuff that has, the biggest thing I have to turn off is power buttons. Because that is the most stimulating thing, because every time you scroll or swipe, there's something new that hits you, new information, new. When you get to this mode, you want to destimulate, is that even a word? Destimulate yourself? Oh well. Basically take away your stimulation slowly till you get to the point where you can think clearly again. When you get to this point, you'll realize that you finally have slowed your nervous system back down. You've gotten yourself back to ground zero, which is just your whole regular self without all the overstimulation and over noise and overcrowding of your brain and your thoughts and such and such. The fifth and final distraction is our fears and overthinking. Yes, your fears can be a distraction. You will be sitting around scared of something so long that you never actually go out and do that thing because you are so distracted and consumed by the idea of the fear itself that it literally holds you back from ever overcoming that fear, which in turn becomes a distraction. Overthinking becomes a distraction because while you're so busy up here in your mind going over what could happen, what's going to do, what to do, what the blah, 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 life is still existing around you. And if you spend too much time up here, and now everything I'm saying on this distraction video, I'm not saying that the distractions are necessarily bad. I'm saying how to redirect them and use them to your advantage, or how to live with them. Because your mind is never going to stop thinking. But what you can do is control what your mind thinks. So what I like to do is every time I think of something that is negative or overthinking or something that I'm completely playing in my head that's completely false, I rewrite the narrative into something positive or something that I want to see or something that I want to be. And that's all affirmation is. It's ground yourself back into the present moment. That's the biggest thing when it comes to overthinking and our fears. We have to put ourselves back into the present moment. Showers, journaling, sitting, lying. I just lie straight up on my back, starfish style, staring, gazing at the sky. Even better if you can get outside and do it. We just have to get to the point where we recognize that this is a fear of mine, but I'm not going to let this fear consume who I am being in this present moment, because we can learn a lot from our fears. Our fears tell us what we need to work on. And some of our fears, they are attached to beliefs and ideas we may have had about ourselves. So fear is not necessarily a bad thing. I feel like fear is just a human response. Fear keeps you safe. The goal here isn't to escape the world. The goal is learning how to exist in it without completely losing ourselves. On this channel, we are reaching full sovereignty, meaning complete control over our beings, our actions, our emotions. And I can't wait for where this journey takes us. I'll see you guys again on the next video. I hope you enjoyed this. Goodbye.